What's good, everybody? Back once again, and this time I'm here to give a little bit of that Guardians of the Galaxy 3 review. Now, um, I guess I felt like after watching the whole movie, I'm really surprised they ain't try to do out here no trigger warning for anybody of the going to make you sad due to animals. Um, I was like, cause before going in, I heard from a lot of people about like it's very sad and stuff like that, and I feel like we all sort of knew that might be the case coming into this last one, and the trailers also sort of like connected it to that being the point. But I felt like everything with a it was a it was a misdirection, not in the fact that it was going to be sad, but the fact that of how it's going to implement it being sad. Because I felt like a lot of people, uh, including myself, I was thinking, I'm like, okay, cool, somebody gonna die. That didn't happen. Even though the journey was basically about Rocket dying. Um, but yeah, nobody died. I was like, it really was just more of a parting of ways, if one would say that. Um, but I was like, I really liked the movie. I enjoyed myself. Some well, like with me, I'm pretty much did I wish I had my time back or waste of money type of person. And so pretty much I was like I'm pretty much gonna be fine with a lot of movies. To me it's like I guess I could be like the movie was good, the movie was like I really enjoyed it. As far as a great movie, I mean that's to tell. I guess the question coming out of it is like, is this the best of the Guardians, or whatnot? I think I still would have the first one first, but I think this one will move up to number two over the second one. I felt like it. I felt like even I was like I felt like this is probably the first Marvel movie in quite a while that hit on a lot more of its funny and silliness than some of the other movies. Even though I do feel like at a tad too much of the sad portion of the movies, it was a little bit just too quick that they made it that they went to something funny, but it wasn't so drastically out of like balance that I felt like I feel like you noticed it, but it didn't take you out of the movie, which I feel like a lot of times, especially these last few movies, are able to do. Um, I was like I do like basically the whole banter of the team, the new construction of the team with its new pieces. The whole situation with Gamora, while still unexplained. Uh, I don't really need it explained like that because I was like, I could just do. I was like, I could just. It doesn't weigh me down like I know like it can some people, or it's not a big enough thing to where I'm like, oh, how's she able to be around or whatever like that. I'm just like, oh, okay. She was like good towards the end of Snap or something, but no, I thought that the movie started. I was like, I thought it. Because I was like, I didn't know what to expect out of this one, because it seemed like it was everybody's farewell ride in some type of way. This being Gunn's last movie, I was like, I'm pretty sure this. I was like, I mean, like, I feel like yes, the characters may come back in some purport, like part of them, like Secret Ward or something big like that, but I really don't. I really think this is sort of the end. To be honest, I really don't think none of them is going to like really come back. With Gunn going to DC, I wouldn't be shocked if he took like Batista over there and took obviously his brother and stuff like so. And they might not just want to do anymore. I was like, Zoe. So Zoe so it seemed like she's sort of done with it as well too. So, but I thought the beginning of it was like start off really good. Adam Warlock just came in and just started wrecking shop, and it I thought they started him out really good as a character, and then didn't use him. I guess is really more of it than him being like, because I was like, I get what they were doing, where it was like he was like so hell bent on taking down the Guardians because that was his mission was, and but I felt by the end of it, I get it. It was sort of to flip him around of being like more of a understanding character of like, oh, there's more nuance here. There's context. I was like, these people that I was supposed to attack, let me live. Like all that other stuff. Because I was like, this is a very much a movie about human growth. That's what it really felt like. It really felt like being like basically it hit on a lot of points, I guess, of like being human and like like especially like how like the day and age we in now, and stuff like that, of the not necessarily enlightenment but one's meant like mental status of like what's going on with you. I was like the psychology of dealing with other people, your own like healing and things like that. I really felt like was really the themes of the movie. Um, I guess I was like going by character base. I guess I was like, cause I was like Nebula is like the confrontational person, so like she's like she's very like hard and can't get through her due to like the whole movie until like the end. And Mantis, who is normally like very gullible, like she sees that she's silly and stuff like that. But you see that when she had to step up and basically confront and like defend herself and defend everybody else, she was able to step up to Nebula. Drax, who we all just like is a buffoon, or like, but I was like, Mantis gave like his qualities of why he works, why he's like, even though like he might have this like this weakness or whatever like that he overcomes it with these other things, but then Drax is able to show like, oh man, like I like you may think of me as like the doofus, and I was like the big strong hulking guy, but it's like there's the soft side, while also it's like because of how he is, that he takes the time to actually sort of understand people and stuff like that. And yes, it comes out a certain way, not necessarily like purposely, but he actually is comforting and is there for you and stuff like that. Star Lord showing his like progression of being like from like him being like the sniveling dude that's like kind of like crying over himself because girl and stuff like that, to the point that he's drinking obsessively and stuff like that, which basically gets his friend hurt. So he had to reconcile with that, and then also when he actually meets Gamora, and from his beginning part of how like I feel like maybe most people are uh after like a breakup or the person doesn't like you, so he's like vulnerable while also just like trying to spill everything out, while also trying to like get her back, and like he's going through all the stuff. I felt like they did a better job with him, and like him being funny and him going through all his emotions and stuff like that better than they did with Thor. I thought I thought I was like, depending on who you are, you could look at it a certain way, but I felt like Star Lord was a like an actual gradual way of like sometimes like that just happens, and it's just like it's a human part, but you ain't gotta be, but you still gotta get stuff done. You still gotta where Thor was like overly silly. He like he was uh I was like I don't know, it's maybe the other stuff with the hammer and stuff, like it was like it was more. I felt like more like jealousy and stuff like that than I felt like Star Lord was. So granted, it's a little different of like how it ended, duh. But I was like, Gamora also. I think her being like herself, or being like this hardening character and whatnot, and how she was like. Cause I was like, even in this one, it's basically she's a harder version of what she was from the ones that we once knew. So I feel like by the end of it, basically, she also suddenly like softened up, and it sort of, and I felt like it was sort of like a telling of the movie of like, oh, it's a real, it's like family, but but I feel like even though it's like a family and you care about these people, you still gotta do stuff for yourself and stuff like that. But The overall story, I thought the action in it was really good. I was like, it was a really good sci-fi movie. It was really, I was like, from like the action sequence, like the one where they was all fighting, at the high evolution's spaceship. I thought that was a really cool sequence of fighting. How they would just like I was like, how it just seemed like it was like a one shot panning through of each one and all their significant kills. Um, I was like, I was like, I didn't have any problem. I guess the part that sucked, I guess, was really just because I was like, well, like Rocket being like, a character that I feel like is pretty popular, but liking Rocket, and he really wasn't able to do Rocket stuff in the movie. I did like his backstory. Um, I was like, I was like, it was really like cool to see how everything got started because you sort of figure like he was got operated on, and maybe there's a person that did this whole thing about operating on all these animals and stuff like that. But I think it was cool of like seeing how he was created, uh, and like his journey of like how like he was being taught like things like the sky and that's a rocket and stuff like that. But he was knowing like the equations like crazy. I was like he figured out a problem that basically the dude himself couldn't even figure out. Which I feel like that's what really like drove him mad and his whole thing. That basically I felt like it basically like I'm God here, and how did you know something that God doesn't know when I've been trying to create my perfect creations out here? Which I was like, that's also another thing with the whole thing of basically like stop trying to be perfect instead of just being like just be who you are or whatever and all your imperfections type of thing. But yeah, so I was like, I was like, I get it because it felt like it was a long, not really long movie because I'm like, there's been a longer Marvel movie, but I didn't mean like long, like like you're sitting there like, oh my god, when is this movie done? But it just felt like it was long in some parts and short in other parts. Like I was like the Ass of Animal, like it was very short. But like the whole journey of Rock is like very long, but it's good. But it's still like I felt like I still have I could have sat there more of that back of the backstory and stuff like that. I uh I was like I know most people do like pros and cons, and I was like that's what I'm doing, but I'm sort of all over the place. I didn't. The only thing I was like, but everything else I was like I like all like the color, the fighting. I was like the music was sort of just a little. Uh I felt like it was almost like because that's sort of a staple of the Guardians of the Galaxy they was throwing in music a lot, and I was like in times where I was like okay cool music, but I just felt like it was too much music. That just might just be me. Not like they were talking or anything, but it just I was just like okay music right now, okay all right music right now. Yeah, so I was like that, but I was like that's not even really that's not that bad. It's just something that it just got me and picking that way. Um, I was gonna say it. Yes, so going back to the sad parts, uh, or whatever. Like there was some times where I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. That's supposed to be sad. And then there was a couple of times where I was like, oh shit, that's that. Oh snap, that's sad. And and I was like, I'm not somebody that gets like emotional or like into the stuff like that, especially because it's like kind of I was like cause with this one I was like I feel like it depends on who you are. If you're somebody that's like like with like I guess like animals and torture and stuff like that, then it's probably gonna hit you in a different way than like me. It wasn't really necessarily about the animal because it's like to me I'm like this fake animals, but it was like the theme or what it represents while this is happening with in this sequence of them feeling like their freedom got taken away, or it's like oh we actually got like friends and stuff, or just shooting of the friends or whatever like that. Um, you know, uh, I mean I also enjoy when Rocket also just tore that dude's face to shreds, and then at the end they also pull that thing off him because I wondered the whole time I was like, what is going on with his face? I want to know what's happening with his face. Um, I was like, I did like Nebula's crazy arm. That was real. That was really cool. I was like, talk about that was needed in the fight against Thanos. That would have been very great and helpful. And I like that it didn't seem nanobot tech like like we get with a lot of like the stuff on Earth. Yeah, trying to think because I mean, I was like, it was like it. I like I said, I feel like the Goofy cylinder stuff's landed. Uh, I was like, I kept trying to figure out like, yo, why they always just like bending and breaking Mantis? Because like her arm got broken early. I was like, she kept on falling on her neck constantly and just bouncing around. And I was like, when it was in like the suits, I was just like, okay, maybe she's doing this on purpose. But then when like in the pit, she just got dropped on the side and just like or whatever. I'm just like, oh, okay, that so her thing is just to be a rag doll in this situation if she's not over here just fighting. Um, uh, I I was like the only con I really can say with the movie is I really wish we got more of what the high evolutionary was. I feel like that was lacking in the whole thing, and I sort of get it of like how they had to do like from like Warlock to like Rocket's dying, so we need to go and get his information. But dang it, his information gone, so that means we gotta go to the person who has his information, which led us to counter Earth and all this other stuff. Like I would have loved to see like, okay, cool, the High Evolutionary, he built several people, and the only one I feel like we really know of is the Sovereign, and so it's like them, and then it's like counter Earth. But then I would have liked to know like he came across Earth, so I'd like to see like how that went of like him going to Earth, and Nick, cause he also got like so many animals from Earth that I'm like that's crazy. Uh, but he was at Earth for so long that not only did the planet that also kind of like, yo, how was he able to also just I guess terraforming this planet or whatever, or maybe he found one that was like so close to Earth. Um, but then also too that everything from the buildings like basically everything except for that instead of people it was like human like animals or whatever. I was like, I don't want to say animorphs. Um, that everything was down to a T of Earth. That it would have just been sort of crazy of logging that part in, because I was like, even like when they was driving in the car, like the I guess like the octopus or whatever selling drugs to the kids, or like the kid get beat up in the back alley and stuff like that. I thought they were trying to make a connection to like the time that maybe he went to Earth with the same time that Quill was there, because I was like, because they almost looked like they was around that age of like how they dress and stuff like that, and the from the pictures of the neighborhood and what the kids were wearing and all this other stuff and the activities. Uh, Now I thought it was going to be some connection like that, uh, but yeah, I would have known. I would have liked to see all that part of it, other than just like, okay, he just mad genius scientist or whatever. And I mean, like I know that I was like, it's one of the things that I was like, I know he had to die because he's the villain, and also too, it puts everything whole of the Guardians story, Rocket story. It wraps everything up. But I thought it'd have been cool if he would have got away, just because if he's able to do all this over here and he's just got taken out like that, that sort of makes it a little bit like, like it could have been like not that he should have been like powerful, like he was powerful in his like like his suit or whatever. It almost made me think of like Black Panther's like kinetic energy suit. But I guess it probably was like a little bit more like a psychic pathways or something like that. But um, I thought that he should have like either like escaped, or there should have been something else. Like he didn't have a contingency plan. He was so bent up on getting Rocket or whatever that I thought that he almost could be. He could still be like one of them lingering big bad for later on kind of thing. Just because I'm like, like he's making all of this. He's contributing so much that I just felt like he, and I was like, that would have just sort of been cool. That is like, I guess, lingering out there too. That like, even though Rocket, stayed alive, everybody was good. It could still be wrapped up, but that's still like his main mission or whatever like that. Because I was like, it's still a long time until like Kang and Secret Wars, so that doesn't mean that you could have something else in between this and that time, where he has something to do with it. Um, but at the same time, considering that's how most villains do in the MCU, it's not something that's going to like keep me up awake or take away from the movie being an overall good movie. I was like, I was trying to think. I was like, if it was a rating out of 5, I was like, I'd be like 4 seems high, but if I did 10, then I'd be like, yeah, but it'd be a 7. Um, yeah, no, I was like, I fairly enjoyed pretty much the whole thing. Uh, Quill going back to Earth, now it was something I also wondered too, like why he never just went back, just because, because I was like, because he never went back, but he somehow keeps having music after each decade, and I guess that sort of throws. I mean, like like stuff like that's like, I guess, like a nitpick. And somebody might have like the actual answers or whatever, but the fact that and I was like, maybe because we send out sound waves out out in space, this gets intercepted, so maybe they're able to their pickup song to be like, oh man, this seemed like this is the music that came through all out these times, that or something. I don't know, but like that's a nitpick. Some other nitpicks is really the fact that talking in nitpick, and I was like, I get it. I get it for the audience of, they ain't got time to give everybody their own like language and dialect and stuff, how they talk, and I was like, it's like this is one of them things that makes it easier. Nobody got time to be reading subtitles all the time. Uh, in the movies and stuff like that. If you want to do that, watch a foreign film or some anime. But so I get that, but I guess it's not necessarily the speaking of English, but there's a couple of times where they were talking and I was like, oh, that's Earth slang, and, and I'm like, okay, I was, like how like when they talked to Drax when he first started, he took everything literally, because I was like, one, that's him, and where people come from and stuff like that is like very direct. But I'm also like, yeah, but if nobody's ever came across how people speak, I mean, even sometimes here on Earth, that if when we talk sometimes, that things could be misconstrued basically just because I don't. It's like, no, that's what that mean there. Okay, that doesn't mean that here. Oh wait, y'all don't have a saying for this, or y'all do have a saying for this. Where it's like we gotta say like 18 words to say what y'all say in one word. So I was like, if we have that here, yet alone something in I would like other spots in the universe, but not just other spots in the universe, but also that these planets are basically like how we, like they're not just like one species; they're all multiple species. So there's a lot going in that too. So, but that's the sort of nitpicks. I was like when they was at the Counter Earth, I was like, that didn't bother me. But when it was at the I can't think of, I don't know, it was like the Auto Core or whatever like that. And they were sort of talking and stuff like that, and it was just like able to realize. But I guess then again, if the High Evolutionary dude made them, then they would understand that. So maybe I'm just over it. Like I said, I'm just rambling, nitpicking, uh, just going through it. But I I I was like, so there's also something that came to mind too. But basically, I was like, this is probably the best Marvel movie of Phase 4 5. Well, I was like, yeah, well, never mind. This is really the only one of like really a 5 other than Ant-Man. But I was like, that's why I had to enjoy them both. Uh, I do wonder how this movie would have looked pre-pandemic. And all the stuff that Gunn got into. because I think it was that was Guardians was supposed to be the first movie after Endgame, not Spider-Man. I think so. It would have been cool to see how that would have all went. Basically, like right off the heels of Endgame, them going to find a Gamora or whatever, and all that, and maybe you know they would come. Maybe they would be a better chance of them coming back. I know the gun stuff really messed them all up to where they didn't want to do it. They didn't really want to do it again. So that impacted. Then the pandemic hit. So I always wondered like how would it have looked if none of that stuff would have happened. Because I'm like, we're done with Guardian. Yeah, maybe a couple will come back here and there, but I feel like if things would have been right, we could have probably had about 4 or 5 Guardian movies. Cause I feel like this is the only. It was probably the only franchise you can do multiple movies of. I know we're probably gonna get a Thor 4 at some point, and it's kind of like, cool, whatever. I like they're doing Captain America again. Granted, it's a different Captain America, but it's like, okay, let's see how that one goes. But Guardian was the only one I could think of that was going. That seemed like it would have had about five movies or so like that. Especially because you've seen at the end, Rocket had a new team, so you can always interchangeable and have them all do different stuff as well. So it would have been cool to see how that would have been because like right now I was like it's getting like really good like reviews and everybody's loving it, and and I do think it's one of the few movies that seem like it's like, oh snap, Marvel sort of got it back. But is it Marvel that got it back, or was it just Gunn again doing what he has shown in all his stuff basically? And that's, I feel like, it's a different thing to say, is that Gunn had a really good movie, not necessarily Marvel, just because we've also seen how it's been going as well. But no, it's I think I was like, it's worth it. I was like, it's really good. I think it sold up everything else pretty well. There's nothing I can really tell that's like wrong. Like I said, some of them nitpicks, some of just my questions. Nothing really like tanking you out of the movie where it's just like, didn't enjoy the movie. Like I have like probably I like Eternals, and I like Shang-Chi, and I didn't. I was like, and Multiverse of Madness I thought was a fine movie. So, but everything else, it was okay. It was okay. It was like, oh, okay, I didn't waste my time, but it wasn't out of this world or nothing like that. Like Guardians. See, out of this world. And that's where I'm going to wrap it up at. So, if you like this review, if you liked any of like my thoughts, if I didn't have any thoughts, or if you have more thoughts, yeah, go ahead and do what you do. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But if you listen to any of this, I appreciate it. Thanks. If not, hey, maybe next time. But until then, peace. I'm out.